So on top of instructing you on bluegrass guitar here on YouTube and elsewhere, I also play and perform live music. And so I thought it would be an interesting topic here today to discuss how much money I actually make, me, a regular guy. I don't do this professionally. I have a day job and I do this on weekends because I think it's healthy for me to get out and do something that's difficult, put myself out there and play tunes for people. And so let's dive right into it. So how much money can you make playing music? All right, so I want to tell you a story first. So you won't believe that actually the instrument that I've made the most money on, most likely, I don't have like every bit of accounting details on these, wasn't even a guitar. So when I was younger, I was in a country band. I was a drummer in like a southern rock country band. This band's still around, but I helped form it. I believe it was 2007. And this was in Northeast Tennessee, Johnson City, Tennessee to be specific. And we played a lot of shows in a couple years and somehow or another amassed quite a following. This was before like social media. We were still making band posters and stuff at this time. But whatever we were doing was working. We were basically playing what you would see like on Broadway in Nashville, but we were playing in Upper East Tennessee. And it became quite lucrative. And so I remember that the most money that I've ever made in a span of 2 hours, or like for an hourly rate period, was when I was 21 years old playing drums in this band. We had done a couple years, had a lot of fun, made some money. And I think in those 2 years, like 5 to 7 of us at any given time, because we'd have some players that would play some shows and that wouldn't, like the fiddle player, and then we would pay a sound guy if we needed them for that specific gig, and they'd get an equal cut. And so we weren't playing, I remember by the end of it, for less than like $100 a piece, and I was like 21 years old, so that was quite a bit of money at that time. But the last show we pitched as our last show. A couple of the guys, including myself, was calling it quits, moving on. We were in college, so some of us are graduating and doing other stuff, and so we pitched this show as our last show. The band's still around now, ironically. But at the end of that 2-hour performance, and also, you know, you have to factor in there's practice times. It's a big element of it. That takes a lot of time. I think there were 6 of us that night, if I'm not mistaken, 5 or 6, and we were handed, I'll never forget this, $525 a piece, college kids, for playing a show in a college town. Because we got a cut of the door that night. And so, yeah, it's crazy that is a true story, because that's a lot of money. Like, I would kill to be able to make that much at a gig constantly these days. But we'd put a lot of work into it, and we had gained this following over time, and that's just how it was. So now I'm going to take you for another spin. So when I started playing guitar and singing and doing live shows, and also playing as a double guitar duo, was not actually in the United States of America. I lived in southern Vietnam for 4 years. This was before the pandemic, or during the pandemic. And during that time, I was a science teacher by day, but I also would play shows in the evenings and on weekends. Was part of a Irish-American duo, John Marr, if you're watching, shout out. And we would play lots and lots of shows. And I think what's important that was different than when I was playing these shows as a drummer in 2007, 2008, was the brewery scene, because that wasn't around. And we're talking about Vietnam, but the craft brewery scene exploded in the 2010s. And so that was kind of the conduit through how I was booking shows in Vietnam and how I'm booking shows now, actually. And so me and this other gentleman, John, we were playing these shows, and at that point, we got a lot of money. For each show, we were splitting like 1 million Vietnamese dong, which in actuality is give or take between 45 and 50 bucks for a 2-hour set. Now, that's not a whole lot of money. However, the cost of living in Vietnam was extremely low. Like, for example, you could get takeout for the entire week, have it delivered with tip for like 1 million Vietnamese dong, probably way less than that actually, which is like 40 bucks, right? Like rent, splitting with a partner is like $600, or if you're by yourself, it's like $400 for like a nice place, usually with a pool and a gym. And so that $50 would really stretch a long way, and it was welcomed to get paid that, because some of the local folks didn't get paid that well for their work, and I felt really fortunate that I was able to be compensated in such a friendly manner. But that would be the low end. Now, I would get paid more. I remember the most I got paid, and the sets were only 2 hours, I recall. Two were like 2.5 hours. Sometimes it'd stretch them out a little bit further. Upwards of like $120 an hour, or for the 2 hour set. But that didn't happen very often. Most of the time, for 2 hours, you were getting paid about $50 each. So we'd all both walk away with $50. And that really stretched quite a long way, right? So that brings me into 2024. So I recently moved back to my hometown of Knoxville, Tennessee, and am experimenting with booking shows around the region. And I'm having success, but going into it, like every time I'm on the phone with somebody to talk about price, I really have nowhere to sort of aim because I'm new to this. And so I've been asking a lot of my friends as well for advice, but here's kind of where I'm at playing solo gigs now. And I'm going with an acoustic guitar. I use a loop station that I basically just use to record a verse and chorus, so I can play and pick over that, which really fills up a lot of time and also makes it to where I'm just not another dude that's like singing and strumming in these gigs. And once again, I am targeting, for the most part, brewery. So I think, before I tell you the numbers, I think this is important because there is a special place, like mentally, where I want to be performing at. This is probably different than a lot of musicians. I am not trying to book myself into theaters. I'm not really trying to position myself as like a original singer-songwriter, so to speak. There's just a business market out there for like background music at breweries. And that's as straightforward as I can be with it. And it pays pretty well, and so that's where I want to be, right? I've got t-shirts for sales, guys. Also, if you are interested, information in the description. 5% of all my profits goes to charity that teaches bluegrass. But I've got that going as well because it's an important element I've learned from playing music over the years. If you've got merchandise for sale, folks will generally buy a t-shirt from you faster than they'll like tip you anything that's going to, well, you know, all tips are good tips, but that's kind of like it's kind of like a bit of psychology behind it, I guess, if you will. But I'd rather have the shirts. I've invested in those to pitch at shows as well, and that sort of adds on to how much I'm getting from the venue, right? And then you can factor in tips as well, which is different for every show. And I don't consume alcohol, not anymore at least, but like this is going to be different depending on what time of day that you're playing. When I'm playing these shows, like I've got some shows booked in Asheville this weekend and they're afternoon shows. People are going to be drinking, but like I don't really mentally prepare for much tips. Hopefully I'm wrong. We'll see. Maybe that's not the right way to look at it. But I don't know. These are the things I think about when I'm trying to figure out the compensation. Okay, so when I'm approaching breweries and playing shows, I am getting between $150 and $200 for a 3-hour set of playing music. And I think that's quite fair. I would like it if the 3-hour time frame was a bit lower. I think that's a kind of, I don't know. I was talking to my other musician friends about this, and like 3 hours is quite a bit of time. And for any musician to go up and do solo or like a full performance, in my opinion, I'd really kind of like that number to be compensated, or to have that same compensation rather, for a 2-hour gig. So I'm kind of working on that. But like I said, I've got the merch going on with it, and I've got this YouTube channel, which is great. Thanks you guys for watching, obviously. And I don't actually get paid any money for this yet, but it's something I'm working on, something I'm passionate about, teaching others how to play this style of music and kind of preparing you for going out and playing yourself. So like if you're sitting there wondering how much can I get paid, maybe you're on the fence about reaching out to breweries and places. It is tough. It's just kind of a constant grind. I'm always sending messages and following up on emails. And if you're watching, if you're a business in the Knoxville, Eastern Tennessee, Western North Carolina area and you need live music, let me know. But also, guys, if there's any other topics that you're interested in, music-wise, I don't know, like what I do to play gigs, how I set up for a gig, let me know, because I do like instructing, but I also like varying up the content from time to time. All right. So thank you for watching this. We'll see you on the next one. Bye bye.